Hey everyone, it's Bob again. This time I am back with Warchild #1 from Rob Liefeld. Now I'm going to say that I've never been the biggest fan of Liefeld. I liked his earlier art. His later art or present art is just horrible. Not something that I would purchase or enjoy or anything like that. But it seems also that lately he is just not a great person, in my opinion. So I'm not a big fan of his or anything like that. But I will say that when Image first started, just like everyone else, I did purchase, the Young Blood stories and also probably Brigade. But to be honest, for the most part, after reading an issue or two, it was just there's nothing in this for me. There's no character development. There's no stories. There's nothing interesting that was going to keep me purchasing the books. So I pretty much gave up. But then I realized after some time that I just didn't see Liefeld anymore. He had just disappeared. Like it used to be, I would go to the comic book store, and I would see, all of the Image stuff. That's what you saw. You would see the Marvel and DC stuff, and then you would see Image everywhere. And suddenly I wasn't seeing Liefeld anymore, and I didn't really know what happened. And of course, this is like a couple years after Image had started. And then one day I walked in and I saw this, and then I'm seeing that it's under Maximum Press, so it's not the Extreme Studios anymore through Image. This is Maximum Press. Now, of course, later on I would find out that we're talking much later. I would find out that Liefeld was ousted from Image, and I know you can say that he quit or whatever, but he was fired. He was fired for trying to poach artists from Mark Silvestri, and in order for Image to keep Mark Silvestri, they had to get rid of Liefeld, and seriously, that is the better choice. So Liefeld ended up, leaving. Now, of course, Liefeld says he has a different reason for doing that, is that apparently he was paying too much to have his books published through Image because of how many books he was putting out. I'm not sure I buy into that, because there were other houses within Image that were doing the same thing, and they didn't seem to have that issue that he had, and they didn't leave because of it. So, when you have one person out of seven is the only one with that issue, it makes you think about whether or not that was true. But anyway, I saw this and I'm like, okay, well, here's a Liefeld thing. Let me check it out. Okay. Um, because again, mostly when I would read these, I would just be like, God, why did I do this? I collected Liefeld not because I was a fan of the art or the stories or the characters. It was because he was a motivation to me. It was, if this guy can draw comics, then so can I. Okay, that was the point of when I collected comics and I would purchase Liefeld stuff. It was, I would look at his stuff and say, okay, here he is. If he can get work, then I should be able to get work. It is that simple. Okay, and that's why I bought it. He motivated me every time to keep going. Even if I thought my artwork was horrible, I could look at his and be like, okay, I can still do this. I can get in. Um, as an example here, let's take a look at just this cover. How long is this person's cape? Like, it must come down to the middle of his back. This is the shortest cape I've ever seen, and it is ridiculous. This whole thing here makes no sense. His shield has a cushion inside. I just feel like that would be easily ripped from his arms. These shin bones, this portion of the leg that Liefeld does is so skinny. It always kind of cracks me up how it's able to hold the weight of these bodies that are like just hundreds of pounds of muscle. But doesn't, again, just to cover. And also I have to say, whatever is going around this guy's face is just, it's just horrible. I know he does things where he puts things around faces so you still get to see the face, but it's adding something to it. But I swear it never does anything for me. The giant guy in the back, okay, not too bad. But God, it's always the guy in the front is super small, and the guy in the back has to be 23 feet tall. He does this with everything. The normal thing is if the person behind the other person should generally be smaller because they are further back in the distance. And he seems to do it the opposite way every time, where the person in front is super tiny compared to the person in the back. You've seen it with, Deadpool standing in front of Cable, or Shaft standing in front of well, okay, Bedrock is like a giant dude, but like if Shaft is standing in front of Super Action. As a matter of fact, we can just look at this. There's a picture in the back here. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Hold on. There we go. Why is Shaft so tiny here compared to the rest of these characters? And he's the one standing in front. What is up with Supreme? Supreme is so much more massive than the rest of these people, and it can't. If you look at the size of his body here, none of their feet should be on the same place, the same plane of ground. It coming down here, his kneecap should be way lower than the rest. Just going by this anatomy, and also, what is this? Seriously, guys, what is this? Is that a hand? Is that a hand holding whatever this thing is? That's not a hand. He did not draw this hoping that, he didn't try. He didn't care. It's what it is. I'm going to have a nub glued to the side of a gun or something like that. It's just, it'd be like if you're holding a pencil like this. This is how I hold pencils now. I just have a nub, and, it's, yeah. It's pretty bad. But anyway, let's get back to Warchild here. Okay. We start off on this wizard question mark because we don't really know. We're not really told. He is referred to as Old Master several times by whoever this person is. And again, not a thing we know. He just showed up to say, hey, I'm here to kill you, Old Master. And, we're just going to get on with that. And Old Master's like, no, I guess I'll try to fight back and in some way, so because I don't want to die. But I am going to say that I find it weird that, the Old Master guy, again, is fighting back. And this bad guy here, whoever he is, says, excellent, Old Master, excellent. I had anticipated our meeting to end in murder. Instead, I find a willing accomplice to suicide. What the hell? That doesn't make any sense at all. I don't know how you are. Okay, who is the accomplice to the suicide? Because he's saying he found a willing accomplice to suicide. If he's the one committing his own suicide, then how can he also be the accomplice to it? I'm sorry, that didn't make any sense. When I read that line, I'm like, okay, this is not working out. The dialogue, But before we jump further with that, we can see here that Rob Liefeld, of course, is the creator and writer. Okay, so he's the one who wrote this dialogue. It's funny to me, though, that the story was Chap Yap, okay, who is also doing the pencils, okay? The script is Eric Stevenson. So, do you have 3 people involved in the writing of this now? Maybe that's where the confusion comes in. You have a person who comes up with the story, then you have a person who writes it, and then they hire somebody to put in a script. I don't know how you can say you're the writer if somebody else is coming in and writing the script. I think you should just be like written by Rob Liefeld and Eric Stevenson. Okay, or you could say plotted and then scripts by this person. He always seems to hire somebody to do scripting, like he can't do believable dialogue, but then again, I don't feel like this person was able to do believable dialogue either. Again, we don't know who either of these people are. We don't know the stakes. We just have a wizard who was attacked by another wizard, and I don't know who we're rooting for, but it looks like, he ends up exploding this wizard into just a pool of blood on the ground here. So he won, and then we jump over here. Now we have our heroes, maybe, not sure. They're here. I don't know. There's a lot going on here. It is just a bunch of muscle in a loop here. Somebody doing a narration as they are running through what looks like modern times. Uh, but you have this knight here, this girl who is named Merlin, and then this big guy here named Stone who appears to be a cyborg. So perhaps they're all from different times. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we know. It doesn't look like any of these people know each other. Um, but we do flash back to, I guess, an origin story for our lead hero, which is the guy with the metal band across his face. This person right here, his name is Sword. I feel like that will be a little confusing later on, but his name apparently is Sword. And here's Sword getting his butt kicked by some other kids until Gwendolyn comes out to protect him. Now we've got Sword, Stone, Gwendolyn, Merlin. This sounds like a King Arthur tale. Why wasn't the kid just named Arthur? It just feels like that would have been the way to go. But Gwendolyn, takes him away and tries to patch him up. You know, Another weird thing of dialogue here is that it says here, were father here, he put a stop to their foolishness straight away. And Sword says, he would at that. I hope he's home from war soon. I miss him terribly. It just, I don't know, the war thing sounds very casual. But later on, we actually find out that that is not his father, but he is talking as if it was. It's Gwendolyn's father, and he apparently did not have a mother or father. So it just seems weird that he says later on that her father treated him like a son or whatever. So I don't know because apparently they're not related. He's not been taken in by this person or anything like that. So it just, I don't know. It seems weird for the dialogue. Just for it to be kind of taken away later. A few word bubbles later. But they're still discussing this, and then we flash forward a little bit where I guess they are teenagers and they're being chased. Sword is telling her to go back. She doesn't want to do it. Apparently, Gwendolyn's mother is trying to kill Sword, but we're not told why. Okay? And then, of course, Gwendolyn is the one who gets shot by this arrow from, I guess, her mother's men. And then we go back to modern times where, these people, again, we do know Sword now because we're getting a little bit of an introduction to him. The rest of the characters we don't know. But Sword does make a comment that it appears that Merlin is getting older, although I'm not seeing it. She still kind of looks like a little girl to me. So I'm not seeing a difference there in the age like we're seeing with these flashbacks in Sword's life. But they are apparently ready to infiltrate someplace, but they're not really saying what. And they end up jumping off a building, and I don't know. This is pretty dynamic, but it's just, we have a very tiny head here, just gigantic feet. This guy has to at least be 20 feet tall. If Sword is just an average 6-foot man, we could, then Stone here is like 20 feet tall. And Merlin apparently seems to be whispering to Sword as they are falling, but holding her hand in the wrong direction. I guess if you were to do it the other way, maybe it wouldn't look the way it should. So they had to do it like this. But she says, prepare yourself, young Sword, okay, for whatever's happening here. But they burst through a window in what appears to be a museum. Alarms do go off, and they are after this Sword. So now we flash back again to this trail of blood leading into a cavern where Sword is with Gwendolyn, and Gwendolyn is apparently dying. And then Gwendolyn does die. Her soul leaves her body, and she's floating up, can see herself on the ground, and then death approaches her. And she begs, is there any way that I can stay? I would do anything to be able to stay. And death is like, no, that can't happen, unless maybe, yeah, we'll go ahead and do it. We'll go ahead and keep you alive, but you'll owe me a half dozen souls every changing of the moon. But I guess, sends her soul back down, but it goes into the sword here. So she's now like inhabiting the crystal in the sword, which I guess explains why sword and stone were breaking into a museum to get the sword back when they are, I don't know, waylaid by some janitors, maybe, and then I guess they fight, and those janitors, I guess, end up becoming other creatures. We have to turn this on the side to see that, and there's the sword in the background. It says to be continued. I'm not gonna lie, this didn't capture me, so I did not go out and purchase another issue of this. Although I don't think it's the worst thing I've ever read. Some of the dialogue seems to contradict itself. The artwork isn't that bad. It's pretty dynamic. I kind of really like this last picture here. I kind of wish the book was drawn in that way. A lot of the artwork previously gets muddled, but this looks pretty good. And I'm thinking that they did it as a double page spread, but then shrunk it to go just on this page horizontally. The ink lines are very fine, but yeah. So again, I was talking earlier about Rob Liefeld leaving Image, being forced to leave Image, basically, and then creating Maximum Press. And I remember, again, seeing this in, I don't know, a lot of documentaries, other YouTube videos, anything that discusses Image or whatever discusses this portion. And this is a letter basically saying, hey, we've left Image and we know, that you guys can choose any books and we're happy that you're choosing ours. Again, this is something where it's like, for a long time, I did not see his books in a store and I didn't know what happened. I assumed maybe he retired or, he just took a sabbatical or something like that for some time. But apparently he was still putting out a ton of books that I just never saw. There were things like the Evangeline Glory stuff. I knew about Glory from back with Youngblood, but I had never seen a Glory title on its own. I do remember Supreme coming out, but I hadn't seen a lot of the Supreme stuff. As a matter of fact, I didn't even see Youngblood titles. Apparently, that continued on for a certain amount of time. I don't recall ever seeing that. So when I had walked into a store and saw this, I had picked it up because I'm just like, okay, it's been a while. Let's see, the things he's doing now. I was a little shocked to actually see a comic that had Rob Liefeld's name on it. When I look through here, we're getting this picture of the New Men here. I never saw the New Men. I was going to the comic shop probably once a week, and I've never seen an issue of this. My comic shop was stacked. I was going there all the time. They had everything else, especially from Image. I had collected everything. But I remember seeing these ads, but I never remember seeing the comic. And the reason that I remember the ads so well, this guy is the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen in my life. This mask is just completely stupid. I would like to cover 97% of my face, but I just want my bottom lip and chin coming out. So I don't know. That just never sat well with me. I just kind of think that one was stupid. We talked about this picture earlier, and when you're checking out this video again in the beginning, I am going to show examples of exactly what I was talking about, of how Rob Liefeld will draw a smaller person in front and everybody else in the back are massive giants, and it makes them even more giant because they're in the background. They should, if anything, maybe just be slightly bigger than Shaft or come off as the same size because they're in the background at a further distance. No, these are monstrous. Supreme here should be at least 17 feet tall. Like, there's no other way of looking at it. There's no way, if you were to continue this drawing down from his legs, that his feet would match with the rest of these feet. There's just no way. But that's a thing that Liefeld was always guilty of, and I've put some pictures together to show that. Apparently Bad Rock still comes out through Image. So that just seems wild to me, that you would have books coming out through Image and books coming out through another company that you own. It seems like you're in competition with yourself. And it just doesn't make sense. But I believe he's stated that he's never been much of a businessman, and I guess that kind of shows, considering that this has never moved forward for him. He's kind of stuck in the same place while everybody else has become more, especially with the people from Image. Um, Never saw anything for Nightmare. I don't know if it's a thing that actually came out, but again, Nightmare is coming out through Image, while and Extreme Studios, while this book came out through Maximum Press. So I don't know. That's confusing. And again, I feel like that's just you competing with yourself. But there it is. That is Warchild #1. Not the worst first issue. There was an attempt to get a story and an origin in there, at least for one of the characters. We're not told who a lot of people are, but I do feel that maybe that would pop up in further issues. I just didn't care enough in order to get more issues to find out. All right, so I want to thank you guys for watching. If you liked this video at all, please, give it a like. If you want to see more of these videos, please subscribe. I'm a comic artist currently working on a title called Ghost Girl of my own creation. And when I have that comic complete, I will be doing a Kickstarter in order to have it printed. And I'm just trying to get my name out there. So any likes and subscribes would be of great help. Thank you guys, and I will talk to you later.